Now that you understand what the Chinese New Year is, how it works as a process, how it unfolds in phases, and how it is experienced over time, the time has come to answer the questions that everyone is asking. What is the tone of the year that is beginning? What is the energy that will define this new cycle? And how do we live through this time with more awareness, less burnout, and more direction? So let's get started. The year starting today, February 17th, 2026 in our calendar, or the year 4724 in the Chinese calendar, is the year of the Yang Fire Horse. And this combination is powerful, but it is not simple and it calls for maturity. Why? What does that mean? What lies ahead? To answer these questions, first I need to clarify something fundamental. Chinese astrology does not work with fatalistic predictions. In other words, it won't say this will happen. Chinese astrology observes the climate of the times, the energy of this period, and how it influences people's lives, the planet, nature, and individual and collective fields. Just like Chinese medicine, which observes energy, the body's vibration, and external factors that affect the body, such as cold, heat, wind, dryness, humidity, movement, stagnation, excess, or deficiency. In Chinese astrology, the year is read as a collective energetic field, and within this field, each person, each society, and each country reacts according to their level of awareness, preparation, and responsibility. The symbol does not create the event. The symbol describes the type of movement that tends to emerge. So, the year of the Yang Fire Horse, which is our symbol at this moment, doesn't make things happen, but it describes the kind of things that tend to emerge in periods with this energetic frequency. Knowing this, we can then begin to understand what this year means, what it vibrates, and what might emerge from it. As you already know, this year that is starting now is the year of the Yang Fire Horse. The horse is the seventh animal of the Chinese zodiac. It represents movement, freedom, displacement, speed, and vital force. The horse was not made to stand still. It suffers when it is contained, when it is trapped. It gets sick when it is repressed. Imagine a horse that is kept locked up all the time, day and night, in those stalls. Now imagine this horse, the same horse, running free in a field. When we think of these two horses, the difference is almost visceral. The horse trapped in the stall, even if it has food, water, and shelter, loses the sparkle in its eyes. The body becomes tense, the muscles don't express themselves, the breathing becomes shallow, and it starts to develop behaviors of stress, restlessness, aggression, and even apathy. Sometimes he paws at the ground, sometimes he stays too still, sometimes he gets sick without a visible cause. It's not a lack of external care, it's a lack of nature, it's life being compressed. Now, when you imagine that same horse loose in an open field, running, feeling the wind on its body, choosing when to stop, when to speed up, when to interact, the energy changes completely. The movement is fluid, the body responds, vitality appears. There is presence, strength, and joy. The horse, he's not just alive, he's existing fully as a horse and with his nature. And it's exactly this difference that the year of the horse brings to us as humanity. It's not about how to survive, it's about how to exist. That's why, energetically, years of the horse tend to intensify a deep desire for freedom. And freedom here isn't just traveling more or moving cities, it's internal freedom. It's that feeling of, I can't stand living like this anymore. It's the desire to leave soul-sucking jobs, relationships that no longer make sense, routines that kill joy, or roles you keep playing just because it's always been that way. It's very common in years of the horse for people to say things like, I don't recognize myself in this life anymore. I need to change or I'll get sick. I don't want to just keep putting this off. And most importantly, this year, these changes tend to happen faster. What before seems stuck, jammed, full of resistance starts to move. Not because it gets easy, but because the energetic impulse is in favor of movement. It's as if the wind were blowing in the same direction as your desire. You know that change you've been putting off for years? That project you know is your truth, but never had the courage to get off the ground? That decision you feel in your body that needs to be made? Now is the time. The year of the Yang Fire Horse doesn't like eternal postponement. It pushes, it accelerates, it pulls you out of stagnation. It brings an intense desire for freedom and brings ruptures with structures that no longer hold life. And when I say this, When I talk about ruptures with structures that no longer hold life, I'm not just talking about external collapses or existence at the level of life and death only. I'm also talking about internal structures of choices made out of fear, of paths kept by habit, of lives lived on autopilot, of purpose, of joy, of happiness, of the journey on earth. Existing in this context isn't just breathing and paying bills. Existing is feeling purpose. It's feeling joy in being here. It's feeling that your journey on earth makes sense to you. And if something in your life today no longer supports this full existence, this year tends to show this with great clarity and will bring it to the surface in a noticeable way, sometimes gently, sometimes abruptly. It will all depend on how much you listen to the signs and make the necessary changes and adjustments before they need to become a push. The great opportunity of this year is this: to project your energy, your will, your effort in the direction of what is true for you, because now there is momentum, there is movement, there is less resistance. But like any runaway horse, this also requires direction. Freedom without awareness becomes escape, movement without presence becomes wear and tear, and running off without direction becomes a disaster. And that is exactly where the real work of this year begins. When well lived, it is a year of courage, of advancement, of vitality, of expansion. When poorly lived, it is impulsivity, it is recklessness, it is conflict and extreme wear and tear. And that is exactly why the year of the young fire horse is not a neutral year. It asks for courage, but it asks for awareness. It offers movement, but it demands direction. In this video, I wanted to introduce you to the horse, the nature of this symbol, the impulse for freedom it brings, and the deep call to leave stagnation and begin to exist with more truth. In the next video, we will take the next step, because this horse does not come alone, it comes accompanied by the fire element and the yang polarity. And then the conversation gets even more intense. In the next video, I will explain what young fire is, how it amplifies emotions, actions, conflicts, why it speeds everything up, and what care this type of energy requires, so as not to become wear and tear, impulsivity, or collapse. If this content made sense to you, write it in the comments. If you want to suggest themes or deeper dives, leave them here too, and we will see you in the next video, where we will dive into the meaning of the yang fire of the year of the horse.